Imagine, for a second, your absolute best salesperson.
Oh, everyone has one that immediately comes to mind.
Right, the one who, closes every single deal, charms every client who walks through the door, and they just routinely work these 80-hour weeks just to completely crush their
A
quotas.
total superstar.
Exactly. So now imagine promoting that superstar. You move them to management, or maybe you give them a key enterprise account. You give them a pay bump, a fancy new title, and of course, really high
It's
expectations.
tough.
And then within 6 months, they are failing, like failing so spectacularly that you actually have to consider firing them.
Which is just a brutal situation for everyone involved.
It really is. And the question for you, the listener, is why did that happen? Most leaders look at that train wreck and they say, well, they lost their drive or they got complacent.
Or they think the money made them soft.
Right. But today's source material argues something much, much more uncomfortable. It says they didn't lose their drive. And they didn't really fail either. You broke them. You broke them by fundamentally misunderstanding the physics of how human beings process time.
Yeah. And what's worse than that is it usually turns into a moral judgment.
Oh, how so?
Well, we don't just say a newly promoted rep is struggling with a new workflow. We say they've gotten lazy. We say they lack that killer instinct they used to have.
Which is incredibly unfair.
Totally.
Um,
But it is so much easier for management to categorize a stalled revenue line as a people problem because, people problems are visible. You can pull someone into an office and have a tough conversation about their effort.
You can't put a structural design flaw on a performance improvement plan.
Exactly. You just can't do it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our map for this deep dive is a newly drafted organizational guide from March 15th, 2026. It's by Dwight W. Mihalish.
Yeah. And it's titled, When Sales Fall Short, How Levels of Work Help Leaders Build the Sales Capacity for Growth.
Perfect. And the central mission we are taking you on today is to solve that exact mystery we just talked about. Why great people fail when promoted, and why companies just completely stall out on revenue, even when everyone in the building is sweating through their shirts.
And to solve it, the guide leans really heavily on the work of Elliot Jacques,
Right.
specifically his theory from a book called Requisite Organization. Now, Jacques spent decades studying corporate structures, and he discovered something fascinating about human capability and, well, compensation.
What did he find?
He realized that the weight of a job, like the true complexity of it, isn't measured by how many emails you answer or how much you sweat.
Okay.
The defining metric of complexity is what Jacques called the time span of discretion.
Wait, time span of discretion. Let me stop you right there because honestly, that sounds like prime corporate speak for a deadline. What does that actually mean in plain English?
I know people confuse the two all the time, but they're entirely different things. A deadline is just a date on a calendar your boss gives you.
Right. Have this on my desk by Friday.
Exactly. But the time span of discretion is the amount of time you have to work entirely in the dark, using your own judgment, before reality tells you if your decision was a good one or a total disaster.
So it's the gap between taking an action and actually seeing the consequence.
Exactly that. Like if your job is to sweep a floor, your time span of discretion is about 3 minutes.
Right. You sweep, you look down, the floor is clean.
You did a good job.
Duh.
Boom, instant feedback. But if your job is to design a new software architecture for a global bank,
Oh, wow.
yeah, you might make a decision today. And you won't know if it actually works or if it crashes the entire system for 2 full years.
That is terrifying.
Right. And that requires a completely different cognitive architecture from the person doing it. It's all about how much ambiguity a human brain can tolerate before it absolutely needs the validation of a concrete result.
That reframes everything for me. Because usually when we say a role is highly complex, we just mean the person is extremely busy, like they're making 300 cold calls a day.
Yeah, but sweating more doesn't mean you're solving a harder math problem.
That is a great way to put it.
Busyness is not complexity. Complexity is strictly about that time horizon and the level of ambiguity you have to navigate.
So to truly understand why people fail when they move to new sales roles, we have to start at the foundation, right?
Yes.
We need to look at what the document calls level 1, because this is where most salespeople start. And ironically, it's the specific type of complexity here that becomes a trap if you try to force it to scale.
Right. So level 1 is transactional sales.
Yeah.
And the time span of discretion here is immediate.
Immediate, like same day.
Same day. Yeah, up to a maximum of maybe 3 months. The work is incredibly concrete, it's highly procedural, and it has almost zero ambiguity.
Give me a tangible example of that, because it sounds to me like being a line cook in a really busy high-end diner.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like the tickets are flying in, the heat is on. It is intensely demanding physically and mentally. But your success relies on the fact that you are following a specific recipe perfectly every single time.
Yes, exactly.
If someone orders scrambled eggs, you don't take an hour to diagnose their childhood trauma to see if they'd actually prefer an omelet.
No, you definitely don't.
You just deliver the best scrambled eggs quickly and accurately.
That is a phenomenal analogy. You aren't inventing the menu, you are just executing it.
Right.
So in the corporate world, this is a counter sales representative at, say, an industrial parts distributor or a call center rep.
Okay, that makes sense.
A customer calls in and says, hey, I need this specific half-inch valve. The salesperson identifies the stock number, confirms the pricing, enters the order, and processes the payment.
Very straightforward.
Very. The value they add to the organization isn't strategic vision. It is accuracy, speed, and consistency.
Let me play the skeptic for a second, though. When you describe it like that, procedural zero ambiguity, it sounds almost easy.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Well, anyone who has ever worked a customer service desk or a high-volume sales floor knows it is exhausting.
Exactly. And the danger there is confusing procedural with easy. It is not easy at all.
Right.
Maintaining perfect accuracy and high speed over an 8-hour shift requires immense discipline. But the cognitive load is short-term. And this is where management makes its first massive error.
What do they do?
Because the work is procedural, managers often assume that a veteran level 1 rep just doesn't need coaching anymore. They think, well, they know the recipe, just leave them alone.
Right, they just let them cook.
But level 1 reps absolutely require structure to survive that pace. They need clear procedures, they need accurate inventory tools, and they need rapid, immediate feedback to maintain that high-speed consistency.
So if the tools break down, they're in trouble.
Exactly. If the inventory software is broken, the level 1 rep can't fix the software. They just get crushed by angry customers.
Okay, so the line cook is crushing it. The diner is making money. But eventually, the market changes, right? A competitor opens up across the street selling the exact same scrambled eggs for 50 cents cheaper.
Tale as old as time.
Right. So to survive, the business can't just take orders anymore. It has to start solving bigger problems for its clients. And that introduces a friction that breaks the level 1 model completely.
That is the pivotal moment of scaling for any business.
Yeah.
Because following the recipe only works when the customer walks in knowing exactly what they want.
Yeah.
But what happens when the customer only knows they have a symptom? Like they say, our manufacturing line is too slow, and the organization has to figure out the actual disease and the cure.
That's a huge shift.
It is. That shift in ambiguity drags the salesperson entirely out of level 1 and into level 2.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Level 2 is diagnostic sales.
Yeah.
And the time horizon here stretches out from 3 to 12 months.
The big jump.
So if we stick with our food analogy, we are no longer the line cook. We have become a private nutritionist.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. So the client walks in and says, I want to lose 20 pounds. You can't just hand them a salad immediately.
Well, that won't work.
You have to spend weeks auditing their lifestyle, taking blood work, understanding their schedule, and then you have to convince them to commit to a customized 6-month meal plan.
And, crucial point here, you have to keep them motivated for those entire 6 months before they see the final result.
Right.
That is the 12-month time span of discretion in action. In a business context, think of an IT business development consultant.
Okay, so someone selling software or networks.
Right. A client knows they have security vulnerabilities, but they don't know what software they need. The salesperson has to spend weeks auditing their servers, diagnosing all the bottlenecks, and then proposing a customized cloud migration package.
So the value isn't speed anymore.
Not at all. The value added is diagnosis, sound judgment, and building deep, sustained trust over time.
So if we are talking about a 12-month horizon with high ambiguity, this explains exactly why our hypothetical superstar from the introduction failed.
Precisely the trap the guide warns about.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is management looks at that superstar line cook, the level 1 rep, who is fast, accurate, and closing 50 simple transactions a day, and they say, let's promote them to a level 2 account manager so they can sell our complex IT integrations.
But level 2 requires operating in the gray area.
Very gray.
It requires a salesperson to sit across from a client who says, I want this specific server, and have the confidence to say, actually, Based on my diagnosis, that server will bottleneck your operations. You need to delay this purchase and restructure your network first.
Which is an incredibly uncomfortable conversation if your brain is wired for the immediate dopamine hit of just closing the sale today.
Oh, I bet.
If that level 1 superstar lacks the natural cognitive capability to tolerate 12 months of ambiguity, they will just panic.
What does that panic look like?
Well, they start dropping the ball. They avoid those hard, messy diagnostic conversations, and they retreat to trying to sell the complex software as if it were just a simple half-inch valve. They try to force a level 2 problem into a level 1 process.
And then management pulls them into the office and says, you've lost your drive.
Exactly. When in reality, their mental time horizon was stretched completely beyond its natural elasticity. It's like asking a sprinter to suddenly run a marathon, but not telling them the race has changed, and then yelling at them when they collapse at mile 2.
That's rough. And if you are listening right now and wondering what level your own team is operating at, the guide actually provides a brilliant diagnostic tool for you.
Yes, the reflection prompts.
Right. Ask yourself this specific question tomorrow morning. Are your reps trusted advisors who push back on clients to find the real problem, or are they just highly enthusiastic order takers?
That's the real test.
Yeah. Can they sustain a complex, multi-stakeholder sales cycle for 8 months without losing focus? Or do they just abandon any deal that doesn't close in 30 days?
That is absolutely the litmus test. And if a business successfully builds that level 2 diagnostic capability, they inevitably hit the next ceiling.
There's always another ceiling.
Always. Once you master diagnosing individual client needs, the business wants to hunt bigger game. They want massive multi-departmental, multi-year contracts.
Right, like why sell one IT integration when we can become the exclusive technology vendor for a massive multinational corporation across all their global branches?
Exactly.
But landing that deal means you aren't just giving good advice to one buyer anymore. The friction changes entirely. You are suddenly managing a sprawling, cross-functional campaign, which brings us to level 3.
Level 3 is strategic sales. And now the time span of discretion expands to 1 to 2 years.
Wow, up to 2 years.
Yeah. We have moved from diagnosing a single problem to managing serial processes and orchestrating massive resources. You are aligning your marketing team, your operations directors, and your finance department just to deliver a comprehensive, evolving solution to a complex client over a sustained period.
To evolve our analogy, if level 1 is the line cook and level 2 is the private nutritionist, then level 3 is the restaurant franchisee who is tasked with opening 3 new locations over the next 2 years.
I love that.
You aren't cooking the food at all anymore.
Right, you're not in the kitchen.
You are negotiating commercial real estate leases, you are securing bank loans, hiring general managers, and you have to make sure the marketing campaign launches on the exact same day the health inspector clears the kitchens. It is pure orchestration.
That is a perfect visualization of the cognitive leap required here. Strategic sales isn't just about the dollar amount of the deal.
What is it about?
It is about the coordination of moving parts over a very long time horizon. A level 3 regional sales manager might be introducing an entirely new product line across several distinct distribution networks.
So they have to look really far ahead.
Exactly. They have to anticipate market shifts 18 months out. They are accountable for overall account profitability, not just gross revenue.
Which naturally begs the question. If the level 3 strategic manager is out there conducting this massive orchestra and closing 2-year deals, who decided what music the orchestra is playing in the first place?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right, like who decides what cities the tour goes to? Because that requires stepping completely outside the actual sales cycle.
That brings us to level 4, enterprise sales leadership. This is where the time horizon expands to 2 to 5 years. At this level, the complexity of work becomes entirely conceptual and systemic. A level 4 leader is fundamentally not selling to clients anymore.
Wait, a level 4 sales leader doesn't sell.
No, they shouldn't be. Their job is designing the system that enables everyone else to sell.
Okay, explain that.
They are building the sales architecture. They're defining the global territories, designing the compensation models so that reps are incentivized to sell the right products. They're shaping the hiring and training systems and ensuring the go-to-market strategy actually aligns with where the industry will be 3 years from now.
Following our analogy to its absolute peak, this is the CEO of the massive hospitality group.
Yes.
They aren't opening a specific restaurant. They are sitting in a boardroom looking at 5-year macroeconomic trends, deciding if the company should pivot away from sit-down restaurants entirely and start distributing their ingredients directly to grocery chains.
Exactly. But here's where the text highlights a catastrophic and incredibly common management failure. It's called overmanaging.
Oh, I can guess what this is.
Because humans crave certainty, level 3 and level 4 leaders will often retreat to the concrete work they used to be good at.
Oh, I've seen this happen so many times. The vice president of sales, whose actual job is to fix a broken compensation structure that is causing 50% rep turnover, gets stressed out by that ambiguity.
Yep.
So they swoop in, they take over a client meeting from a level 2 rep, and they just close a single deal themselves.
And they walk out of that meeting feeling like an absolute hero. They get that immediate level 1 dopamine hit. Look at me, I still have the magic touch. I closed the deal.
Meanwhile, the entire sales architecture of the company is burning to the ground behind them because they abandoned the 3-year system design work they are actually paid to do.
It is the ultimate comfort zone trap. When leaders step down to do the lower level work, not only do they neglect their own strategic duties, but they also suffocate the development of the people below them.
Because they're doing the team's job for them.
Exactly. You cannot build a capable level 2 diagnostician if the VP keeps parachuting in to rescue the deals.
So what does this all mean for the absolute top of the food chain? Let's say, miraculously, a company avoids that trap. They have level 1 executors, level 2 diagnosticians, level 3 orchestrators, and a level 4 VP building the systems.
A perfect setup.
Right. But there is still a glaring blind spot in many mid-sized companies that the guide addresses with a very strict rule. It says the highest level of sales work must be carried somewhere. It cannot just evaporate into the ether.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains the most common bottleneck in founder-led or rapidly growing organizations.
How so?
Let's say an organization operates as a level 3 business overall. They have a layer of management and a CEO on top. But for whatever reason, their sales department tops out at level 2.
Okay, so the whole sales team is made up of those 12-month horizon diagnosticians giving great advice.
Yes, but nobody is structurally capable of holding the 2-year strategic vision.
So the team is out there fighting battles, but nobody is planning the war.
The law of organizational physics dictates that the level 3 strategic sales work has no natural home in that department. So where does it go?
It defaults upward.
Yes, it lands squarely on the desk of the CEO or the owner.
Oh man, this perfectly explains why so many founders are completely exhausted.
They're doing 2 jobs.
Right. They read all these business books that tell them to, delegate sales and fire themselves from the sales role, but they try it, and revenues plummet. So they jump back in feeling like they are just surrounded by incompetent people.
But it isn't incompetence, it's a structural void. The rule is that you cannot delegate the top level of sales work below the top layer of organizational capability. If the CEO hasn't built a level 3 or a level 4 capability beneath them, they're permanently trapped holding that 2-year cognitive horizon, because literally no one else in the building is paid or equipped to do it.
Now, to be clear, the guide isn't saying the CEO should be doing the actual selling, right?
Oh, absolutely not. The CEO should never be processing transactions, and they shouldn't be diagnosing standard client IT needs.
Okay.
But they must be present to anchor the highest tier of complexity. They have to be at the table for executive-to-executive negotiations, signaling long-term commitment to major partners. And in larger corporate structures, the CEO is responsible for what the guide calls level 5 work.
Wait, we haven't touched on level 5 yet. What does the time horizon look like there?
Level 5 deals with enterprise growth and market design, and the time span of discretion is 5 to 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah. This isn't about selling a product anymore. It's about shaping the external market itself.
Like lobbying.
Yes. Lobbying for regulatory changes, forming international joint ventures, or acquiring entirely new companies to ensure the enterprise even survives a decade from now.
That's huge.
It is. And even if your head of sales is a brilliant level 4 system designer, the CEO still has to carry that 10-year commercial thinking. The complexity have to live somewhere.
We have covered so much ground today, and it completely shatters how most of us view performance. Let's wrap up this deep dive and summarize the core truth we've discovered. The grand illusion of business is that when revenue falls short, we immediately try to solve the problem with more effort, more motivation, or louder cheering.
Right. We assume the machine is fine, the workers just aren't sweating enough.
But you cannot solve a structural complexity issue with effort alone. You cannot motivate a sprinter into becoming a marathon runner in an afternoon.
You really can't.
Yeah.
You have to respect the cognitive levels of work.
Exactly. Whether it's the lightning fast, same day execution of level 1 transactional sales, the 12-month consultative diagnosis of level 2, the multi department 2-year orchestration of level 3, or the 5-year enterprise system design of level 4. Success is never about who works the hardest.
No, it's not.
It is ultimately about matching the right mind to the right time horizon and equipping them to handle that specific level of ambiguity.
I strongly encourage anyone listening who manages people to stop evaluating your team based purely on their hustle. Look at your organizational chart tomorrow and ask the hard structural question.
Which is?
Is this person failing because they lack drive? Or because we've placed them in a role that demands a time span of discretion they aren't equipped for? Aligning capability with complexity is the single most powerful lever a leader can pull.
I couldn't agree more. And to you, our listener, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've spent this entire deep dive looking at how this framework applies to a corporate sales structure. But step away from the business for a second and think about your own career, regardless of what industry you were in.
Oh, this applies everywhere.
It really does. Are you currently feeling burnt out, chronically frustrated, or stuck in a rut? Consider this. Maybe it's not that you're in the wrong profession. Maybe it's not that you've lost your passion. Maybe the friction you are feeling is that you have a level 3 strategic mind, naturally capable of seeing 2 years into the future, but you are currently trapped in a role structurally designed for level 1 execution.
That's a powerful thought.
What would happen if you stepped back, stopped blaming yourself for lacking motivation, and evaluated your own life's work by its time span of discretion?